So does Fire Emblem Engage's DLC ruin maddening mode or make it too easy? This is something that I've been thinking about quite a lot for this game, and as more waves of DLC roll out, it's definitely the case that the game is made easier. Now, in this map, I'm using flyers and this is a skirmish and I'm kind of gimmicking it because it's funny, but this is something you could do on any Fire Emblem map where you can use water. So this has nothing to do with DLC. With that being said, does the DLC make the game easier? It absolutely does. So how does it make the game easier? It gives you free resources, and giving you free resources will always make a game like Fire Emblem easier, because in Fire Emblem Engage, there are key points where you lose your emblem rings, and the game becomes harder. And with the DLC, you get free emblem rings, and as more waves of DLC roll out, you get even more emblem rings. So not only do you have more emblem rings than you should at key points in the story, which makes maps much easier, you also get free resources. So the second wave of DLC gives you like 20,000 gold, it gives you bond fragments, it gives you books that give you SP, which can be used to unlock skills. It also gives you a bunch of silver weapons. And as far as I can tell, the DLC just makes the game easier. And it is true that you can do more, like you can make more builds because you have more access to different skills. That's definitely true. However, it's not like running a DLC ring means you lose out on a mainline mission ring. Like, you just get both. So there's like key points in the story where you have like, I don't know, 3... There's actually points in the story where you have like no emblem rings, right? And then now you would just have however many emblem rings you have, right? So from the DLC, and I think the number's getting up there. I think it's like 5. So like, if I made a game and I balanced that game around you not having certain items at a certain time as part of the challenge of that game, and then I added the option to buy. So like, let's say it's like some sword game or something, or whatever, some action game, right? And you lose all of your weapons except for like a crappy weapon, and you have to fight with a crappy weapon for a certain period of time. But then if you buy the DLC, you just have 5 amazing weapons. You can use it any time. It completely undoes the game flow, or like the difficult. It completely undermines the difficulty curve. It completely undermines the challenge on certain maps, and it's just not. It's not healthy for the game. Fire Emblem Three Houses had DLC that was similar. Now the DLC in Three Houses, they gave you like a starter chest that had a few broken items, and then if you beat the DLC, you got one of the most broken items in the game, the Chalice of Beginning, which allowed you to counterattack things at any range, which was pretty nuts, and also prevented effectiveness. So like if an enemy was attacking you and it had like an effective weapon versus your class or whatever, it prevented that. That was broken, but it wasn't nearly as broken as handing the player like 5 emblem rings, right? Plus like all these items and all these resources, and also giving them extra paralogs to level up in. So it's like, I think the core game balance is being messed up by this DLC, and I don't know that there's a good way to do this DLC that's like healthy for the balance of the game, because emblem rings are very powerful, and if you have very powerful abilities, they need to be managed and they need to be restricted. And in the base game without DLC, to some degree they are, because they have control over when you get certain abilities. But with the DLC, that control has been forfeited and game design has been thrown out the window because you gave them $30, so here's a bunch of upside. Like, here's just pure upside. You know, it's kind of stupid, to be honest. And I'm not sure that I will ever buy the DLC for this reason. Now, I would like to run the extra emblem rings and experiments, but I think maddening is at a point where I understand how to do a lot, and it's not really that hard for me anymore. So this is my second run, and I understand which units are good, which things you want to run, and why. But that being said, if I were to buy the DLC right now, it'll just make it much easier, and I can't say that I want to do that. I don't see the point in doing that. Like, why would I want to make... Like, maddening is supposed to be challenging, right? Like, we're getting into, like, philosophy of difficulty, but maddening is supposed to be a difficult mode. It's supposed to push you to your limits. It's supposed to force you to be really good at the game and make good decisions. And honestly, this game's maddening is a lot easier to break than Three Houses. I think the first run was difficult, but as the community in general figured out certain tactics, it became much easier. And this is like one of, I don't know, 5 maps where you can just abuse it with flyers. This isn't something that can be done in Three Houses, as far as I can tell, but it is something you can do in this game. I think they just assumed people wouldn't run so many flyers, but no, you don't even really need that many. You need like 2 or 3, and you can like solo this map. Now this does take way longer than just beating it normally, but I can't lose. I can't lose right now, so this is pretty funny. But I think that's it for this one. I just wanted to talk about maddening, difficulty balance, and the DLC, because like I keep hearing about like Tiki and it boosts all of your stats by like 15%, and that's so broken, and everyone knows it's broken. It's like, yes, that's really good. It's objectively insane, but it's clearly broken. Boosting all of your growths by 15% would allow you to make literally any unit cracked out of their mind. You could have like 30% strength growth or magic growth, and now your base is 45 plus like magic modifier from like a magic class, strength modifier from a strength class. You'll hit over 60% growth, so you'll get your speed growth up to a point where any unit can get speed. Like just that breaks the game. Like some of these emblem rings are definitely more balanced than others. Like Leaf's is not that overpowered; he's just decent. Honestly, I think most emblem rings should be like strong, but not remotely overpowered. They should be like Gambits with some upside, right? With some extra abilities, like in Three Houses. That's what they should be. So when I keep hearing about how broken Tiki is, now apparently Camilla's also broken, it just makes me never want to buy the DLC, because why would I? It's like, hey, do you want to use this thing that's overpowered? It's like, not really. I mean, what's the fun in, where's the fun in that? There's no challenge if everything's easy. Like, why would I play maddening mode if it was easy? Why wouldn't I just play the easy mode? What's the difference? You know? Why play maddening mode if you can trivialize it so much to the point where you don't even have to think or calculate or do anything? Isn't that the entire point of this game? Isn't that literally the point of this game? Especially in higher difficulties, to be forced to think about like unit planning, builds, min-maxing, making good decisions, feeding the right units XP. Isn't that the point of Fire Emblem? I think at its core, Fire Emblem DLC is usually bad. And it's usually bad because it just makes the game easier, and it doesn't really add anything aside from that. Now, it might add things like Cindered Shadows, but arguably Cindered Shadows also just made the game easier, and like Cindered Shadows itself was just, it was fine, I guess. It wasn't like the worst DLC in terms of content, but like the problem with adding DLC to Fire Emblem is that Fire Emblem like heavily rewards you for grinding, right? Because then your stats become higher and your units become better. So if you have people get DLC that just gives them more stuff or gives them more chapters, then they can just grind more. And then if you can grind more, it makes the maps easier. So that's like the fundamental problem with DLC in of itself for this game. Now in other games, DLC isn't bad. So like for a game like Oblivion, I think like the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion DLC is like some of the best because it adds a ton of new content and it doesn't make the game easier because you have to really go out of your way to get it. In the game, you just keep leveling up anyways, so within the context of that game's design, it's totally fine. And also there's always like mods. Like as far as I can tell, I can't just go download some difficulty mods for this game. You know, so like if the game gets too easy, that's one thing that's great about like the Elder Scrolls games. If you find them too easy, just download a bunch of difficulty mods and boom, it's fine. But why play maddening if you just have all these busted emblem rings? You know, I just don't get it. Honestly, I'm probably gonna stop using Lucina for this reason, because Lucina just kind of like makes everything brain dead. and even like this tactic here. I think it's too easy to break this game. I think they need to address this. I don't know that they will though, because why would you? You know, why would you make a game harder? Maybe they add a maddening plus mode, which would be interesting to kind of counterbalance all the DLC power creep, but I doubt it. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my assessment. I mean, it's hard to disagree that it makes the game easier. Like, what's harder, having plus 30k economy or not having plus 30k economy? It's resources. What's harder, having more emblem rings or having fewer emblem rings? It's not really. I don't really think there's an argument to be made against it. But I mean, you can try, and I'm curious to see if anyone has one. But yeah, definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this interesting. I'm going to be resuming the guides, but I am getting to a point where breaking this game is not that hard. So, peace.